To put it on. Sorry about that. For those of you looking at me in a slightly confused way, I'm not Rennie Zellweger. I am, in fact, Jo Brand. Good evening, and welcome to tonight. Oh my God, it's going to be a Norman Collier microphone, this one. That's a reference for anyone over 70. Am I going to use this? Can you hear me if I don't use it? Yeah. That's a bit better. This always happens. Cheap old crap. Hello. Gin and tonic, yes please. Thank you.
All right.
Right, can I just say congratulations to the Duchess of Cambridge, supporting Labour in her own special way. Yes, indeed. Now, you might not know anything about me. Let me just tell you a brief bit. I am a comedian. My mum and dad met through the Labour Party. I've always voted Labour, which is not to say my attachment to Labour has always been easy. I've always stuck with them, though. And I was a nurse from 1978 to 1988. I know that's 800 years ago, but Julie Walters is older than me, and I don't think there are any other comedian nurses. Are there? Not that I can think of, no. Okay, and that's why I personally think that laughter is the best medicine. Well, although I find it tends not to work in the case of impotence. Thank you all very much for coming along this evening, and I think it's absolutely brilliant that you're here to support our wonderful NHS. And if we're not careful, NHS soon will be standing for not here soon. So I think, you know, the more opportunity we have to defend it, the better. The NHS is, of course, a national treasure, as we know. I, on the other hand, am a national disgrace, if you're a Daily Mail reader, anyway, but I hope there's none of those here this evening. The NHS is based on values such as care, compassion, and equality, and that's in short supply these days, I feel, in certain parts of society, particularly if you're Katie Hopkins' therapist. Now, these values of care, compassion and equality are just as important now as they were when the Labour Party created the NHS in 1948. For me, as a nurse, the rot set in and values began to be eroded in the 1980s, when Margaret Thatcher's government put parts of the health service, such as cleaning services, out to tender to be bid for by private business. And we all know what that means. That means searching for profit, which normally stands above caring for people. And we also know it means, on the whole, cheapest is the best. Pay your staff a pittance and stretch them over more wards than they can really cope with, is what I started to see in the 80s, and I don't feel it's progressed in the right direction since then. In recent years, we have seen the values of free healthcare for everyone eroded even more by the Tory-led government. I should actually, just in their defence, say that Tories do a lot of work for charity. I'm sorry, I mean make a lot of work for charity. That's why, with less than a week to go until polling day, the NHS is on the ballot paper in every constituency in England at this election. Yeah. So if you value it, then you need to vote for it, because I think the alternative is terrifying. I think we're heading towards a system which tells you that if you can't afford it, you won't get care. And that is being done mainly by stealth by the current government, and it's something they will continue to do if they get back into power. Now, in the 80s and 90s, people were dying on NHS waiting lists. We don't want to go back to that. Sadly, my uncle died recently, although on the positive side, Atos had declared him fit for work. That's a joke, it's not true. It's all right, he didn't really die, I haven't even got an uncle. Right, so that's why I'm here today to support Andy Burnham, Labour's Shadow Health Secretary, and Rupa Huck, who is Labour's candidate here in Ealing Central and Acton, and it's because I value our NHS. I don't want to see the Tories destroy it. I think Labour really is the only party we can trust. And just very briefly, before we kick off the grown-up discussion, that's not me, I'm the adolescent bit at the beginning, right? But just to say, I had such a varied job when I was a nurse. I was a psychiatric nurse. When I did my training, I worked in drug units, I worked with the elderly, and I ended up in charge of a 24 psychiatric emergency unit, which was a walk-in unit that took any referral, any person that walked in the door. So I ended up doing a lot of very different things. And when I was a student, I was asked to attend at a lumbar puncture. Now, most of you will probably know what that is, but it's a very difficult procedure which is hard to get right, where you take cerebral spinal fluid from the base of someone's spine with a massive great needle that looks like it should come out of a horror film. So it was a junior doctor doing it. This poor woman was curled up on a bench. It was August. It was boiling hot. He had 9 goes. What I know, it was outrageous. While this poor woman just went, please stop. On the 10th go, I'd sort of had enough in my head and I fainted on top of him and knocked him over. And this patient turned round to me and went, "Thank you, nurse." And that is the first thank you I remember getting in the health service, so I treasure it. So I think you can tell that I'm a big long-term Labour supporter, and I do value the NHS so much. It's incredible what it offers. It's admired all around the world. And I think that anyone that wants to live in a civilised society must accept that the NHS is a shining light and a shining example to the rest of the world. Right, now, we're going to hear from someone who's working in our health service about why they need you to vote for Labour next Thursday. Now, I'm sorry, but on the list they've sent me, I've got you down as XXX. Ooh. So, I don't know if she works part-time in a dodgy area. So sorry. Siobhan. So will you please welcome Siobhan?